Hey, this is Mark here, and we're continuing in our series on residual energy and haunts. And I'm going to zip through this one because I want to try to make it 10 minutes or less. The title of this one is 6 Scientific Reasons Residual Energy Should Be Rejected. I'm just going to list them and I'm not going to elaborate. I want to begin with a question, though. All right, how would you respond if your doctor said this to you? I have so much experience and I'm so busy that I don't have time to read the recent medical literature on current advances in medical field. How would that make you feel? Uncomfortable, probably. And if they were maybe being prideful and prone to maybe misdiagnosing you or someone else. Well, perhaps no concept is more universally assumed to be true in the paranormal community than that of residual energy and haunt, and yet there is so little self-reflection by the paranormal investigators regarding one of its most basic assumptions, residual energy, by which they diagnose clients' home. It's hugely significant. That's why I think the analogy is appropriate with the doctor. All right, here's 6 reasons why we need to get rid of the notion of residual energy. Number 1, this is a quote from Jeff Bellinger. No universal way seems to exist to be able to shut down or stop a residual energy. We simply do not know what causes it to happen. Some people claim a residual haunt happens due to traumatic events leaving an energy imprint. That may be true in few cases, but in many cases of residual energy are just of a commonplace occurrences, like someone repeatedly walking from room to room, exiting through an apparent doorway that is no longer there, or doing some mundane task. Nothing seems to indicate why that particular moment in time was captured and repeatedly reflected back during our time, or perhaps time perpetually. And he goes on to say, so we are left with the disconcerting truth that perhaps the majority of residual haunts or paranormal time reflections are not caused by the alleged primary cause of residual haunts, a traumatic event which leaves imprints on surroundings. Rather confusing, to say the least. Argument number 2. No mechanism. This is a quote from the book, How to Think About Weird Things. The problem is that we know of no mechanism that will record such information on a stone or play it back. Chunks of stone just do not have the same properties as reels of tape. Even magnetic tape can't record sound or video without a special recording head. Speaking to a magnetic tape will not record anything, nor can one hear what's recorded if magnetic tape by putting it up to one's ear. In both cases, a special device like a read-write head is needed, and the stone tape theory provides no clue as to what such device would be. Okay, argument number 1, the theory doesn't correspond to the data, or most of it. The second reason, there is no mechanism. Third reason. Okay, now if these are place memories, if residual energy is, as it alleges, photos of past event imprints, holographic images caught on natural surfaces, then why isn't the original scenery included? If you take a picture of someone, then the scenery will be included, obviously. But if you see an image of a woman that's supposedly a residual haunt walking in your home, why isn't the original scenery included? Might sound kind of crazy, but there's a lot of logic to that. When one takes a simple photo, the scenery is included, right? If this is a photo or film of an original image of 100 years ago, then why isn't there original scenery surrounding the event included as well? Well, maybe it's not a memory at all. Did you know that this is fourth reason why we need to reject it. Did you know, I told you on the fly, Did you know that according to one group, the phenomenon of period dress did not start occurring until 100 years ago? Prior to that, ghosts were seen in contemporary garb. If ghosts and residual energy are truly non-intelligent, then they must have occurred throughout human history in similar fashion. Interesting. Argument number 5. Thermodynamics. First, the law talks about conservation. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Second, third laws have been ignored in this discussion. Second law talks about how energy is entropy. It diffuses once it leaves its container. And the third law talks about how it diffuses until it reaches equilibrium. I put food coloring in this a few minutes ago. It, like energy, diffused until it reached equilibrium. It reached the limits of its container, this glass, and I realize that that's water, not energy, and food coloring and so forth, but that's the beauty of this law, is that it actually is not just applicable to energy. There's diffusion into equilibrium in a lot of parts of reality. But when energy is released from its container, it immediately diffuses outward until it reaches equilibrium. So, when a person dies or there's a traumatic event, that released energy will flow out from the body into the air and diffuse into the atmosphere. Now, considering how big the atmosphere is, equilibrium won't be reached until that released energy is spread far and wide. Now, this new container is not like this. As I understand, the atmosphere is like 100 miles high, and it certainly surrounds the entire Earth. Nothing is left of this energy that's being released, from a person's body. Nothing is left of its basic nature, and it doesn't have any potential energy, certainly none to kickstart the kind of elaborate displays seen in people's homes. When a person dies, that energy is going to diffuse, and it's going to seek equilibrium to the outer limits of its new container. And that new container is, like I said, the entire atmosphere in which we live and breathe and have our being. So, because of the second and third laws, energy cannot remain clustered in the walls or the soil, and it cannot act as an agent for causing residual haunts, just as the food coloring could not remain clustered in the middle of the glass. It had to disperse. Same thing with energy. If I put food coloring instead of in the glass, if I put it in the ocean, that would be, what would remain of that drop or two of food coloring then? It would really be watered down, and that would actually be more of an accurate analogy of what happens when energy is released from our bodies or is allegedly caused by a traumatic event, simply because of how huge the atmosphere is into which this energy is being released and seeking equilibrium. Yes, it's not destroyed, but it is massively watered down and loses all its distinctiveness. And it certainly has no ability to put on a extraordinary light and sound show. And the laws of thermodynamics reveal something of the beauty of God, and they are known by scientists as being absolute, no known exceptions to them. And again, this energy will expand as far as a new container will allow it to expand, which is the entire atmosphere. Consider 1,000,000,000 volts and lightning strike. If it was to hit a tree in your backyard, it would be gone, and you can go out there and touch it right away. It's gone. That's diffusion and equilibrium massively. And so the same thing, what happens to a few volts when it leaves our body? It's gone. It's just gone. The last thing I would say is it cannot. That is, this theory cannot be repeated in a lab. If you take a block of limestone from a massively haunted asylum, surely if it was true, some of that energy you could get it to reproduce what allegedly happens in people's homes, but it's not repeatable. And a non-repeatable theory is not worth calling a theory. And it certainly should not be used to misdiagnose dear people's homes. Now, friends, that was quick, but if you continue to persist in your belief in residual energy and haunts, it's in spite of the evidence. It's in contradiction to the evidence. Now, if you appeal to your years of experience, I'll address that in the next segment. But that's anecdotal evidence and not scientific evidence. So next time we're going to look at why this theory is so popular. But I want to thank you. Have a good day. Bye.